me. And so, like I said, injury prevention. So if I were to break it down into the things that are really important, again, you think of physical training and, get away from the whole bodybuilding thing. This is what physical training is about with soccer. It's about your nervous system. It's about ground reaction forces. And what we're going to talk about is integrative neuromuscular training. But that basically just says, your coordination, your nervous system, that's your quickness, your speed. That's something that needs to be trained, those patterns. And that's where people that go on, 20-minute runs all the time, they kind of miss out on that important part of soccer training. That also has a lot to do with your, like I said, your central nervous system. There's something that I don't know if you've ever heard the word proprioception, but that's basically how you control your body, understanding where your body is in space and being able to make fine-tune adjustments if it's ever so slightly off. So the best athletes have really great, the central nervous system, proprioception. And the ground reaction forces, that's where speed training and things like that come in. And that's where, although it's not track, speed training can have a place. You can get a little bit faster if you teach your body the technique. So a lot of players don't lift up their knee properly. If you've ever been through a truly quality speed training program where it takes you through movements, you'll see, okay, that is something that I can get faster at. My limb movement, making sure I don't overstride, those type of things. So that's what's ground reaction forces. The angle at which your foot hits the ground, what part of the foot hits the ground. If you're changing direction, you might want to be more on the inside or outside edge of your foot. So these are the fine things and getting the right angles. And then, like we said, the neuromuscular part. So neuromuscular system, like I said, it's just your ability to control yourself in space. And again, this is what is really key is, and I guess maybe I discovered it when I had an injury years back, and I never really had injuries. And so it was the first one where I really did some rehab. And I noticed in doing the rehab, I actually got better at, hold on, my kick's getting better, even though I'm doing something, that's not intended for it. So that's where I kind of put the pieces together.
What were you doing what was your rehab training like that wasn't necessarily?
It's basic. We'll go over, or we'll mention it. That's a great question. So actually we can do it. We're mentioning it right now. Basically, if you look at core, you've seen it a billion times. Everyone's seen it. Nobody does it. It's simple stuff like hip extension, you've seen the person where they're on all fours. It's called a quadruped. And then
is that where you're down and then you lift your leg?
So it's a side knee raise quadruped, yep. AKA fire hydrant. And I can send you actually that. I sent my kids a routine.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, send us that. I can share it with the group. Yeah, when you send that over, I'll share it with everybody here.
So basically, doing simple hip work that's something that always gets said, always gets preached, but because the players, they don't get it. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that me being on my knees, raising my knee to the side is gonna make me faster, but that type of stuff does. So, and it keeps you injury free. Half of the knee injuries come, and that's why it's basically always a rehab exercise. But most coaches, strength coaches, go ahead and they prescribe it as a prehab exercise. So, you'll never get hurt. You'll perform a little bit better if you do that. So, then we have, so basically, if you're going and trying to break down and do things, work on your nervous system, you're not going to be all complex to start out. You're going to break patterns down, focus on really the technique. So that's why if you've ever seen somebody do maybe that T run, that agility run where they sprint forward and then go to the side and then go to the other side and then come back and backpedal. Do you know what I'm talking about? So yeah, so if you want to get better at that, for example, and football players, you know, like sometimes you're in a situation where you'll get paid more money if you pass a, you know, or you'll get recruited if they're just looking at a time on a agility test. So sometimes it's like, so the point is that they're highly incentivized to become better at this. And so they really break it down. And if you look at how they break it down, they sprint to there and stop. So they have the deceleration part down perfect to where they don't just go there, then go there, and then go there, and then repeat it and think they're going to get better by doing that repeatedly. No, they break it down into the parts. And so if you're not good at changing direction, you can basically, you know, come up with technical exercises that help you to change direction. And you can then do, you know, some exercises either with or without a ball that practice that. But don't just do the exercises that practice that without understanding what goes into the exercise, and you know, and being deliberate about what you're targeting. So basically, this is a chart that I got from a sports journal, a strength and conditioning journal, and it kind of tells you, and you can see how you know, you can be training at a very young age. It's just when you're young, you're not really going to be doing things with weights, you know, a lot of hopping, but that's the same thing. You're trying to develop movement skills. And then around 7 to 11, you know, single leg hopping, just getting a little bit, but it's still not super complex. And you might get some kids in that age range. I've worked with some 8, 10-year-olds, and they are like, you know, more have the, it's a key thing is keeping it fun, you know. So if you make it like it's the army that young, that's not good. So, but if they have the attention span and they want a little bit more, you know, some people say that kids can only take like 5 minutes at a time of that, but I think well, actually I'm talking to you like you're a coach right now, but my point is that it can be fun at 20-minute spurts. And really, I think certain agility exercises, ladders comes to mind. If you get yourself a ladder and you actually start to perfect it and take it on your own, that's a ton of fun. It's kids enjoy that, adults enjoy that. I asked for a ladder when I was in college. That's when I kind of discovered that training device. I asked my parents for one for Christmas. They got it, and I was really super happy to get to the gym. That's huge for defenders. So anyways, and ladder stuff you can do at a young age, but you know, but then you should know more things to do, and we'll talk about that. So as you can see, as you become a little bit older, you start to become a little bit more complex in your training. You could do, you know, maybe you already have basic, that's where you can kind of make things more like obstacle courses, let's say, or do, you know, maybe if you're younger, you're doing just body weight squats, just trying to look at the form and technique. As you get a little bit older, maybe adding bands and things. And then as you're a little bit older, you can maybe be doing actual things that, you know, maybe a squat and a press. Like that's a complex movement. That's an example for the weight room. You know, you could do the same thing with speed and agility, etc. So again, you really want to, and that's what is kind of perfect and get the foundation. And right now, you know, and right now, if you happen to have not gotten it right here, you can always, you know, it's not too late. It's just, it's ideal. It's okay to start early. So, you know, because that's basically where your, what do they call it? Peak, you know, peak learning time.
Yeah, that's when your brain is developing even more, right? Like, I mean, it's a never ending, it's a continual process, but you guys can start anytime. But if you miss that window, it's still okay. It just means that, you know, you just didn't do it then, but you're doing it now, and you can still become incredible. It just takes a little more time. Maybe you will have learned certain ways to do things, and now they might not be the best way, so you might have to unlearn a little bit, so that could kind of cut into your and
actually you know, and really the that's a great point. as well though, it should be, if you're 14 years old, you know, say maybe been in I've worked high school weight rooms, and you have two different kids, and one kid, it's more your training age. So you shouldn't feel pressured to, because someone else is on one level, try to go there. And because skipping those foundation ones, you know, and that's what you get a lot of times. Athletes think, oh, the harder the better, and they don't, and that's how you get overtrained or hurt, because you overdo it. The intensity is too much. You know, that's how you can get injuries that way. So you want to kind of build your body the right way. If you do it this way, you end up building more your core, your nuts and bolts, your mechanics that help your joints know how to respond. So, and it's not like you're going to stay behind that person. And most people, unfortunately, with the way our country is, you don't get this, you know, early enough. So integrative neuromuscular training, that's just kind of like trying to address all the different little things that go into it, you know. And like we said, why are you doing it at this age? Your body's changing. You want to start to really gain all these different skills that are going to help you. And that's kind of why there's the argument against specializing early, is because, you know, soccer, maybe you don't do certain movements that you do in basketball or volleyball, and all of that stuff, those movements you get, and that's going to make you a better soccer player. You know what I mean? So, but I'm not going to, you know, say you can't specialize early. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. So if you have a training program, you know, that goes along, or I kind of specialized, I didn't play another sport, but every day, or not every day, but pretty frequently, like probably 4 or 5 days a week, I would play like basketball, either with my dad or my brother, you know, one-on-one. So to look back at that was just excellent cross training, stop starting. So I didn't specialize, even though I only played soccer.
Well, into these kids too, and kind of like, just to piggyback on that, you don't need to play an organized sport,
right,
quote unquote, to play lots of sports or have different movements. There's a lot of things you do in your life that you just enjoy doing. Like, I mean, I did too as a kid, and whether it's dodgeball or, you know,
I
you
lived
play
for
with your
dodgeball.
friends.
That's why I went to school, 4th grade.
Yeah. So you guys have gotten so many of these movements already. It's just that you might not be aware of focusing on certain ones. And that's as you start to train and get serious about improvement on your physical platform, you focus on techniques of movements, and gradually you get to add complexity, resistance, you know, intensity, and so on. But
yep. So again, you know, we're trying to make the body better. This right here is, you know, way too technical. Don't worry about it, but it does show you basically like all the different issues that there are. You know, you can have your muscles have a lot of, say, if we were to look at ACLs, injuries, a lot of times it's because the way that the muscles activate, the timing is off, you know, or the quads are too weak. I'm sorry, the hamstrings are too weak. So you have the activation issue, you have the deficit issue. The deficit issue, really big with soccer. A lot of injuries come from dysymmetry. So, and that's why if you're super dominant in one leg, you should be worried, because that's a little bit of an injury potential. And then, like we said, the muscle stiffness, proprioception, we already talked about that, but those are a variety of things. Now, these are the different things you can do. You can do dynamic stabilization exercises on your own, coordination, strength, plyos, speed, agility, and then, you know, endurance, fatigue resistance, however you want to say it. So the dynamic stabilization, you know, that's why you see a bunch of people doing exercises on one leg, single leg stuff. And that's extremely important. You know, again, like with anything else, make sure you progress. So you might start by doing single leg balances just on the ground, 30 seconds per leg. And you'll see that's kind of hard. then you might either, some people say close one eye or close both eyes, and you will see that now you're getting a little bit more of your body awareness in space. It's way harder if you close two eyes. It's probably won't be able to do it in 30 seconds. Then you can maybe change. I'll fiddle around. I'll open up, do a single leg balance, opening up the leg to the side. So instead of it being in front, because that's kind of how you receive. So now I'm getting kind of an isometric right there. So that's all level one. That's all barefoot on the ground. Now you can, level two, I have a half round foam roller. So I do believe in, if you can get one of those for your house, half round foam rollers, those, another thing that changed my life, so to speak, that ladder, half round foam roller. Because that's basically something that you just step on. You see the people step on it, and most ankle sprains occur in that side to side motion. So that one is great for control and helping to strengthen some of the muscles. The way that your heel also connects up with kind of your glute. So that is key on the way that you use it and try to maintain is it becomes a injury prevention for the knee. The way that you're standing on it and you have to stabilize your foot, it becomes something. A lot of players can't kick a ball because they can't, I know I had issues serving a long ball. So that's part of why I like that foam roller thing, is because suddenly, okay, it forced me to press my toes and things in a way that created the right foot stiffness. And I noticed my kick got better. But again, I was doing it just because I needed my ankle and knee. So, and then you can do even more. You see people doing stuff where, if you're volleying or doing a ladder and somebody's hitting you either with a, what's those boxing type of things, or a stability ball. So that's more dynamic stabilization. So that's more if you have, but you can always do the static balance, dynamic balance on your own. You show the dynamic stabilization within your game, or you can fiddle with it if you have a friend or a parent and y'all want to do stuff like that. Core stability, very key. Start simple, and then progress. So most of us pretty much start at plank type of stuff, and that's a good place. But some stuff, if you get into, let's say, even if you ever have a chance, I believe if in your off time, if you can take a Pilates, a quality Pilates class is fantastic for the core. So then we talked about coordination being something. So coordination, there's so much you can work on with your coordination. The balance, rhythm. I think a lot of there's rhythm has to do a lot with your, again, sequencing, seeing your movements, coordination, movement adequacy, how you read things in space, your reactiveness to what you see here. If you see someone's foot go back, so that's a little bit cognitive as well as just reacting. So you have to know what you're looking for there. But so coordination. So coordination in general, that's something that requires a high amount of nervous system. So when you do your workouts, try to do your coordination work at the beginning of your workouts. So the ladder stuff in general, you do that at the beginning of a workout. Or you might do your corvers or something where it's quick. Put that at the beginning of a workout. Jumping rope. That's fantastic. If you don't have a jump rope, now's a great time to get one. If people aren't going out. I ended up ordering one on Amazon, a good quality one. You can do all different types of hops, side to side, forward, back. I put together kind of a different, I didn't create it, but, borrowed ideas over time. I put together a jump rope program and sent that to my players. I really do, when you're jumping rope helps you become really reactive. So, yeah. So the strength side, obviously you do need strength. The strength again, it's, and I'll show you a program in a moment, but the strength is just know how to have it in its place. If you're going to do it right. And that means knowing the right exercises to select. Long story short, most people get quad dominant on their programs. They don't work on their back chain enough, you know, and a lot of people, you know, if it's more upper body, they're just pushing and pushing. And that's why, and then they're squatting and squatting and the quads. And that's where the injuries come, because they're not picking the right exercises. They're not picking a well-rounded program. They're not taking care of their nuts and bolts as well. You know, just if you're a baseball player, some of the most effective upper body exercises are a little rotator cuff stuff, you know, not necessarily a bench press, you know. So same thing with soccer. Some of your most effective stuff is going to be your hip movement and things. That's what's going to keep you right. But you are doing the strength. So if you're picking the right exercises at the right times, because it is extremely valuable. I love getting in a weight room. But then it's knowing, if once you're picking the right exercises, having what's called periodization, which is making sure you first, you know, build your muscle endurance. That's why you've ever been to the gym with someone, it's usually a guy, and they go right to the bench press or whatever and go and do a max effort the first time. And it's like they haven't been in the gym in a long time. That's not wise. You know, that's not doing things showing good periodization. So as long as you're going, and basically periodization is first getting your basic muscle tone, muscle endurance, then adding the strength, then making sure, and then that's another mistake, because some people go with the strength too far, you know, and then they end up slow. And that you have to convert that strength to power. And that's why there's a big value in Olympic lifting is extremely good for soccer players. Olympic lifting and the plyometrics, because that's helping you convert that strength now and make it quick. You know, now you have a first step. So the strength. And again, I'll show you a program. I gave a basic one to a high school kid the other day. Plyometrics, landing. Now this is huge because you know, with soccer, how you land, you know, and your ability to cushion down is going to help and affect how you end up taking off. So, so that's one. It's a movement skill, and then two, you know, with all the landing that does occur in soccer and changing direction, if you have proper landing skills, you're going to reduce your injuries. It's going to help you not have your knee slide out of place when you're, you know, going for impact. So plyometrics done, you know, in the right order. Again, not going just to, you know, doing I'm going to drop off of a big box here and then go there. And, you know, no, you start just with landing, falling off of a box. You know, the supports, that's ladders, and knowing how to do hopscotch. Kids can't do hopscotch anymore, you know, like really getting different type of jumping things. And then you go into your box jumps and I think we might have done some mini hurdle stuff. You can Google it. I can send you a clip, but basically where you see people jumping over a 6-inch hurdle where they're jumping up and working on the landing. Or you see people jumping. I actually did a presentation. I might be able to send you a link to it. So that would be, I did it at the United Soccer Coaches in 2019. So I'll share that with you, and you can watch me showing athletes, taking them through it. So then speed agility. So plyometrics, I think are fun if you do it right. And I'm not sure if I mentioned that the deceleration thing. Deceleration is kind of like one of the big things with soccer, any change of direction sport. And that's again why some people are like, oh, strength and conditioning, and they've only been with like baseball strength coaches, and so they are turned off to the idea. They don't think it works because baseball is seldom working on slowing down, and that's what's key. If I want to change direction, I first have to slow down before I go the other way. And so that's why sometimes if you're even doing hopping stuff and learning how to absorb simple side-to-side exercises. So plyometrics, yeah, those are fun, or I find them. Speed agility, you know, like we just said, the rapid deceleration, that's really key with soccer. And you know, like we said, a point that's made here is that eventually you do want to go ahead and combine cognitive aspects. And what they mean by that might be, okay, you're going to be running at me, and then as you get to a certain point, I point one way or the other, you know, or I might, you know, open my foot one way and make it more soccer specific cue. But again, don't go to that until right now. Just make sure you know how to turn or how to cut. Build that skill before adding the cognitive part. Yep. Let's see. Like we've already kind of said this. You know, it's basically saying to get your functional movement skills first, and then once you have those, then work on your reactive training skills, reactive agility, fatigue to resistance. And here's where I do say, at your age, and it's just a matter of not overdoing it. And if you're practicing, you know, a lot depends on your practice schedule. But I do think that at your age, I noticed I made some extremely great fitness improvements on the field when I did a 20-minute run. You know, so I'm not saying that I recommend pro players to do that, but I'm saying if you, and if you already have that fitness base built, you're already great aerobic, then you can move on and do something else. But I do see a lot of people like discouraged. They get way too professional specific, and you know, that's just basic cardiorespiratory fitness. That's your foundation level. So if you can't run for 20 minutes without getting tired, just a nice jog, you should probably do that. And you notice your soccer game will get better. You know, I worked it out in high school up to 30 minutes. Again, didn't do it every day, but and maybe did it a little bit more 2-3 days a week, and when I didn't have heavy practices. So the point is runs are great, and then if you already have that down, then think about getting yourself tired by doing other things. And that's where you can set up kind of an obstacle course, or just, I've gone out before, and you'll find I probably couldn't do it right now. I'd be like so tired. If I were to set up just a 5-10-5, that's me putting a cone 5 yards out, another cone 10 yards out, sprint to the 5, back pedal, sprint to the 10, back pedal, sprint to the 5, back pedal. So right there, I'm just working on basic forward, backwards. You know, let me give myself about 30 seconds rest. Do it again. You know, do 4 sets of that. Right now, I'll pick another exercise. Maybe my next one, I'll do a figure 8, or I'll do a side to side. You know, let me get. It depends on if I'm trying to go after wide skills that day, or if I only want to stay in a linear. You know, but the point is I'll do another agility exercise that's I like doing side to side, lateral, shuffle, and it's amazing how many players can't shuffle properly, and they don't know how to sync and change direction properly. So that little basic drill right there, you know, done for 20 seconds, rest for about 40 seconds, do it 3 or 4 more times. Now you go ahead and pick one more. Maybe your last exercise, have it involve a ball. You know, it doesn't have to though. You know, it can be, if you don't want to do a ball, it could be the end drill. You know, sprint there, back, boom, and back pedal. And so that's a soccer player's cardio. That's cardio for a soccer player. So you didn't go on a big long run, but that's the you already have your aerobic base, and doing that's soccer specific type of endurance training. And a lot of coaches, if you have people around that you can play small-sided games, obviously do that done. And thing is make sure, you know, maybe make sure you don't go for too long, because the whole point is that it's supposed to be fitness. So if you play like a 10-minute game, people are going to not sprint the whole time. So maybe if you're doing it that way, if you're doing 1v1, you have to go even shorter time. You know, you're probably going to get exhausted after 1 to 3 minutes, you know. So, but you're doing 4v4, you could probably go 4-6 minutes, or 2v2, probably about 3 minutes. The 2v2 and 3v3 can be fatiguing, and that's where you pick the size of your field. You know, smaller field, more changes of direction. You get to practice more agility, right? A little bit bigger, you get to cover more ground, a little bit more cardio. So you might, even if you're doing 1v1, how you choose to set that up is is strategic to what you're trying to accomplish. Yeah, we already said, like, so the obstacle course thing. So I like maybe having a couple of cones down, zigzag through the cones, then run through the ladder, then, you know, go sprint 10 yards and have 3 hurdles set up. I can jump over one, quickly move to the side, jump over the next one, quickly move to the side, jump over the next one. So that right there, you know, that's, you know, walk back, redo it again. You know, and those things are fun. So, yeah, again, if you're trying to do something, work on something specific, if it's your speed, you know, or whatever, it could be a skill in soccer, a change of direction skill. You're just trying to think about it, breaking it down. Like, okay, what goes into this? How is the body positioned? You know, what are the coaching points? And then you can think of the activities. So I try to give an example, kind of like if I'm working on my defensive stance and footwork. Well, that requires, you know, agility and balance, some basic leg strength. But really, I'm not going to go in the weight room to work on my, I'm going to be thinking more agility factors. So now think about the basic motor patterns, like we said, that shuffling, being able to push. If somebody's running at me and I'm trying to slow them down, I'm really side on. And especially if they're running with speed, I really want to be side on, and that's basically side shuffling. I'm not just staggered facing them, right? I'm actually side on if they're moving at me with speed. And so that's lateral shuffling, backpedaling, like we said, change of direction mechanics. If I'm playing defense and somebody is coming, now the next part is, do I know how to do a drop step? Right? Do I even, you know, so do you realize that when you're going and let's say a ball comes over the top? Well, if I'm a defender and I know how to be backing up and not have to, okay, turn, I just have one leg open and I drop step, next leg comes and I'm there. So that's a defensive skill, you know? And now I can think of little things that help me become better at it. Maybe my timing's off when I'm going into them. Maybe it's not going backwards and defending them like that. Maybe it's I keep on getting beat when I'm going in. So what am I doing wrong? Am I basically, again, that's deceleration. That deceleration that most people kind of miss when they're doing their training. So that's why doing short agility things, you know, little cone suicide, you know, out 5, 10, 15, you know, that stuff's great. And even that first exercise, or I can take that first 5, 10, 5, and I can make it, instead of just sprint, backpedal, I can go sprint, side shuffle, sprint, side shuffle, sprint, side shuffle back, you know, and now that's very much soccer-like, you know, half the time, okay, right, going there, okay, coming back, oh, now I'm going to close again. Right? Looks like they're going to pass to their feet. Okay, I'm closing in. Oh, no, looks like they're going this way. I'm dropping again. So those mechanics, right? And your body becoming perfect at those mechanics. Now I can be watching the game and my body's going to do what it needs to do. And that's why I get into arguments, unfortunately, with, you know, you have some coaches that they just want to sell their own system, right, and talk about everything has to be done with a ball. You're not getting better unless you're working with a ball. And it's like, you know, and if you do it wrong, you know, like if you do it wrong in the game, then you're punished by the game and you'll do it better next time. Right. No, not necessarily. You know that, hey, I'm doing something wrong, something's off, but let you teach your body to break that down in your off time. That's why they have these days in the Premier League and all the great leagues, they have, you know, sports science coaches and individual coaches that take the key players and they do. I mean, that's what individual training is, but they're enhancing them by breaking down fine skills. Well,
and real quick on that point of what you were saying is kids that are watching, parents, coaches, whoever's here now, what's so great about this and what Staci's talking about, and a lot of this is really simple. Like it's not like some magic exercise. It's really right, what you're focusing on. And so like what Staci's showing you, if you look at how she's thinking it through, she's thinking, oh, well, you know, a lot of people believe that if I'm doing a run it's just to make me tired, right? But it's all those little pieces. Like in that sprint, do I need to change direction? So now it's more like when you guys are training, you can realize that you should be focusing on that. Like anyone who's ever run suicides, right? Or whatever you guys call them, cones or whatever. You sprint out, you sprint back, you sprint out, you sprint back. But it's not just to make you tired and now you're fit, quote unquote. It's also, how do you change direction? Where you plant your foot? How low are you?
How far apart your feet are, the edge of the foot. Yep.
That's the difference. But yeah, thanks for sharing that, Staci. That's really great info for you guys. Hopefully you guys are latching on to some of that.
And so again, you could do it with receiving. I will say, if you get a chance, look up something like A-skips. One of the things I found was when my receiving got better. So A-skips are exercise that track uses for acceleration purposes. Gets the knees up and it gets you moving quickly. You can do it forward. You could do it sideways. You know, it's like I said, an acceleration exercise. And I happen to notice, you know, that they had us doing it sideways. I was working with some football at a football combine. And so they had me, you know, they wanted me, the soccer coach, jumping in. This was back when I actually was still a player. So it was fun. And I did the exercises with them, and for them, it's for their lateral speed and being able to, but for me, I was like, holy, my touch just got better. Like my receiving, a ball came and I'm just right there, boom. So A-skips and knowing how to do it laterally, that's something I really like that exercise. So that's something with receiving. Obviously receiving, you can, a wall, if you ever have a wall, that's a really great thing. If you have the luxury of having a racquetball court, that's the best, because you can do like hit it off this way, you can do fancy turn in, or you can get back. But really, just as long as a wall at all is better than nothing, just to get some 1 and 2 touch, quick, you know, outside foot, boom, outside foot, boom, boom, boom. And that's where, again, those ground reaction forces on receiving, you know, how I receive it, I'll start to notice, okay, boom, how I hit the other foot is going to help determine how far I go, or if I want to keep it tight, you know. But those are the fine things that you're figuring out when you're doing the wall, as well as, you know, your placement where your foot's actually hitting the ball, you know, wall, that was really effective in helping me, that much repetition, because I wasn't really known for my long ball on my left foot. So that wall helped. Again, coordination, you know, full recovery, make sure that you're doing it right. You don't want to be doing it in the coordination training is different than endurance training, you know, again, unless you're putting it into an obstacle course, but you're not going to put it into an obstacle course unless you already know how to do it, you know. Some equipment and things, these are all things, like I actually have all of this stuff, and I think you had asked me, Jason, what can parents do to help their kids out.
Yep.
And you know, if you can get them a couple of equipments, if there's anything that, if you know that they're going to use it, you know, try to get it. And I guess the most basic thing would be bands for soccer players, or at least female soccer players for sure. A lot of times males too, but bands you can do bands while squatting. They can basically add resistance. The banded walks are really key. There's too many to name, you know, but definitely mini bands. Then the little mini hurdles. I love running through some hurdles and things, and you can do fun add a ball after you've perfected whatever run you're doing. I have mini hurdles, and I've done taps through them. Pop, 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 pop. And it's really interesting trying to move sideways doing taps, and you know, even foundations. So something like that, though, say on a day, if I'm going out and I want to, like we said, I need to start out my workout with speed, agility, something. I want to do something kind of quick, get my nervous system or whatever. So I can go a ladder, or or I could do, pop the foundations and have them moving, or the taps and do that backwards, So yeah, it's just thinking of different things. Hoops, again, you don't really need the hoops. So you don't need any of the equipment. I mean, the only thing I think you really would, and that's the bands are kind of useful and they're inexpensive. But if you don't have hoops, you know, that just you know, if you're standing on one leg in one and you hop over to the other one and you hop back, but really you could just do that across a line. You don't need the hoop over there. It's just makes it kind of fun, visual. And yeah, that's about it in terms of you know, in terms of there. Now, hold on, let me. There we go. Oops. So, can you still see my screen?
Yep. Yeah, we can see your
Good.
screen.
All right.
And anybody now that you're thinking about it, now that you've seen some of this, if you have any questions you want to send to me, just chat them real quick, and then I can ask Staci. And again, if you really want to ask it yourself, that's cool too. Just unmute yourself and ask your question, and then mute yourself again. All right, thanks.
So here's just a simple example, like I said, because you want to be careful if you don't have a trainer with you on what you're doing on your own. You know, you really want to make sure that you have proper technique and the foundation. But like people that I was working with, like this is basically, is this phase 1? Yeah. So I just gave them, like, they said they wanted to work out. So it was like, and in general, I like to work out upper and lower body on the same day, but it is useful, and you can do that still, but it is useful usually maybe at your age when you're in season, especially, or, you know, unfortunately, in some ways you're never really out of season. They have the leagues year round now. So the point is that like having an upper body day and a lower body day is very, you know, kind of useful. You know, like we had a high school boys game, and I was like, you know, one of the guys we had off the day before or something, he was like, yeah, coach, I lifted. And I was like, because we had a game that day. He was like, oh, it was upper body. No, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. So he loves working out, you know, so it was smart about it. So right here, like you said, but with if you're doing the upper body training, don't really believe you need to do a back day, the back, chest, shoulder day. You know, it ends up being, again, that's more bodybuilding, where they're just going for looks and not really thinking about function as they're building that. So a more of a well-rounded program, you see we got a little chest right there, side shoulders, the back lats. Okay, now front press, a little upright row. You know. And then the other day is a little bit more, you know, the chin ups, row, shoulder raises, incline. So it's, both of them contain, you know, pretty much everything. And what we have, you know, like we said, how you prescribe it at the bottom, where, you know, the phases, making sure you're going through a proper periodization. If you're on your own, then this is about a good guide right here. You know, it is more technical than this, but at your age, like, you're not going to be worrying about, unless you have a personal trainer, you know, because you can change, say, the tempo. So somebody might say, okay, well, you know, I want you, if it's a squat, you know, going down on a 6 count, you know, coming up on a 2 count, or they might do the reverse. I want you to drop it down there, stay down there for 2 seconds, then come on back. Don't worry about all that right now. Just worry about, you know, doing it at the proper, you know, about a nice even tempo. Although, pro tip, deceleration being so key, eccentric, especially with the hamstrings, is critical. That's going to reduce a lot of injuries and improve performance. So let me think. I think for example, maybe like, so if you're doing like your leg curl, or I'm sorry, your quad extension, boom, up, and then slow on the way back, because that's getting those hammies in a, you know, and now you're getting better control of them. So that's one exercise. That's not like, you know, again, in general, don't worry about, oh, bench press today, my tempo, and doing all that, unless you end up having, right now y'all are at phase 1. Don't worry about that period. You know, so that's upper and lower body, kind of what you see. I kind of told them. And let me see, I might have another here, but I have some programs that are way more functional. Oh, okay, I see why. I was like, all right, I was confused because that last one, I said on it, I said phase 1. And I was like, damn, I was looking at it thinking like, whoa, this is a big phase 1. It's because I titled it incorrectly. So if you can look right here, this is more phase 1, where it's just 4 exercises, 4 basic exercises. And now they've gone ahead and done that. So 4 basic upper body exercises, 4 basic lower body exercises. Notice the hip bridge. We're talking about the glutes. That's the biggest, like I said, the biggest mistake people make in their programs is they ignore the hamstrings and glutes. They do the glamorous exercises like squats and a deadlift, a proper deadlift, maybe, you know, if you're to that age, that's an exercise that builds the most strength. So yeah, so again, these are foundation in terms of the exercises chosen, but you can still go through you should still go through the phases. You know, you're preparing your muscles, just getting a lot of gains that you make at the beginning are just because you're teaching your body how to recruit the right muscles, right? So it's not because you made a big strength gain, but you've never done a bench press before. So like your body doesn't know which muscles to be using, but by your second, third workout, it's knowing what to do. So yeah, and then like we already saw this other program here, you know, now that contains a hang clean. That's a hang clean is where they do that in the Olympics, although they do a clean and press. They do it where they pull the bar from the floor, catch it, and then push it over their head. That's a lot of power. We are doing a hang clean. We're not doing it from the ground. We could do it from the ground, and sometimes but the reason why we're doing it that means we're just pulling it right from the top of our knee. So we're not at the ground with the bar right here, pull it. So now that's more the position that you're in with soccer. Seldom are you exploding from the ground, you know what I mean? That is more of have you in a sport specific, you're usually up taller than having to explode. So hang clean, again, choosing the exercises that are smart for your sport. You know, dumbbell step ups, those are great. You can do that anywhere. Yeah.
Hey, Stace, we got a question from a parent asking, and they have some resistance bands. What are some of the better exercises you'd recommend for somebody working with resistance bands for a teenager?
If it's the mini bands, then I mean, I have it. You can Google it, but I mean, I'm sure I have a copy of it too. I can say, but the banded walks, mini banded walks, those are key. You can do it with the bands and bands above the knee and below the knee. You know, so you can do have a band above the knee and below the knee and do certain kind of marches. Now that's great, and that above the knee is key because that's keeping the knees from caving in, which is really key for preventing injuries. Most females especially, but that's an easy test to do. And even when I presented in Chicago, or no, it was Baltimore this year, I had the players, I had a team from Maryland. They were like a good team, right? Good team that was doing the demo for me. And so I had them doing like, you know, I'm teaching about these basic injury prevention and speed, agility, quickness exercises. And one of them, again, a basic level 1 is me just standing straight up and doing what's called a snap down, or then I just, boom, I land in a squatted position. So I did it. I showed them like 2 or 3 reps, and then I had them up, boom, down. All the coaches, I wasn't even kind of looking at that. I was kind of talking to the coach. All the coaches' jaws dropped. Like 80% of the girls' knees went in. It was like, you know, so imagine if it, and think about how off those angles are. So not only do you have a knee injury coming, but you have, there's no way you're pushing off right and exploding if your knees are caved in towards each other. So, so those bands are really great for helping get proper technique, not letting the knee slide in. 4-way, now you can do it lying down, and I will send you this, Jason. The same 4-way thing, hip. If I'm lying down on the ground and then I raise my leg, you know, straight leg raises. That's what I'm trying to say. It's in, again, every knee rehab program. I do, you know, lie on my side, leg raises. You know, pro tip is if you have a wall that you can be against when you're lying on your side, kind of pushing back against the wall while you're going up and down kind of helps you engage the glute even better. Because a lot of people, when they're doing that side raise, they end up turning their foot up and then getting more or getting the hip flexor. So
yeah. So you use that wall to keep your technique good the whole way, right?
Yep. Yeah. So the point is that's level 1. You lying on the ground, making sure your core is right. The bands, if you're talking about more longer stretchy bands, you know, so you have mini bands and then you have long stretchy bands. And long stretchy bands you can actually still do if you put it over your shoulders. You can do the walks that create that resistance that the little mini bands do, or you can, you know, I've tied my long band against the lower part of a post or a fence. And then that's where now you're doing what were lying down leg raises, you're doing it standing up on one leg. So, and what you're going to find is, so now not only are you getting the hip on the side that's moving, but that standing leg is going to get a workout too, and being resisting the forces, you know. So that's a level 1 that a lot of players, you know, don't get. So once you do that, now you can move on to even more, you know, think about it, you know, now you have this strong, you know, strong support, strong mechanics. Now you can do fancier stuff. I've been seeing a lot, for some reason I've been seeing a lot of people with a band around their waist. So now they've taken the band around the waist and they're standing sideways, and they'll go and they'll hop and go that way out and land on the other leg. Well, they're working on deceleration, change in direction. And now when they come back, that band's pulling them and they're having to land on this leg. So it's creating a slight overload. You follow me? And they have to land perfectly. And so that's deceleration training. That's also teaching their joints, and they're going to reduce their injuries. So it depends on what band. Bands are great because you can, you know, start to add resistance without, you know, you definitely want to be careful loading a spinal column. You don't want to. I've seen coaches, like, you know, do it wrong with high school kids where they don't have the foundation. Some people say you really shouldn't put a bar on their back at all in those years, you know. So you definitely need to have the right strength base. Don't just be, you know, technique is everything, and having the right core and those nuts and bolts. The bands, even though we're soccer players, all right, our shoulders and everything here. How about doing a band, getting a little bit of, you know, getting the shoulders back and in place? You're going to perform a little bit better if we can keep our arms. When you're doing the ladder, be aware. A lot of times you'll see that for some reason everybody's left arm stays right here when they start to go their fastest. You know, so if you can do something like get that down, that's going to help you. That's your body's more efficient and your speed's going to be a little bit better. But there are little exercises that will probably help you to achieve those positions, you know, whether it's isometrics, whether it's rotator cuff or hip work. That's where the value of that comes in.
Well, that's really great information. Does anyone else have any other questions before we kind of start wrapping it up? All right. Yep. Go ahead, Ashton.
How far did you jog in high school? And is there like a good distance equivalent?
Oh, good question. Good question. Oh, I feel like it was probably between 2 and 3 miles, because what I first did was I realized my fitness needed to improve, and I knew the cross country team had a course. Cross country is too much, but I think it was around 2 to 3 miles.
Like a day?
Yeah, you don't really have to go super, because you're basically looking around 8-minute miles. Even, and it depends. You might start at 10-minute miles. That's fine if you're going 3 of them. Maybe but yeah, I think I more went by time, and then would look at make a pace goal with it. So it might be, okay, I want to go for 20 minutes, and then you can either see how far you went, and like, okay, I'm doing this 20 minutes and 12-minute pace. Whoa, I gotta, like, you want to get that down before you go moving up to 30 minutes. You know what I mean? And then that's where, if you just doing the one pace run will do it, but you can also get creative with it. Once you get those 20 minutes, you'll find like breaking it up into, like, say 5 different things, or maybe 5 different so if you're just running outside and you're just going to go for 20 minutes, who cares about distance? You try to go hard for a minute, right? And then just slow as you like, but not walking, for 3 minutes, right? But slow as you like. Hard for a minute, do that 5 times, you got your 20 minutes. And that's more what they call that HIIT, high intensity interval training. That's the hot word, the hot spot, the cool thing, very effective. So yeah.
And also Ashton was asking too on that, how long, how many days a week would you go for a run like that?
I mean, when I was working on that as the skill, that, I probably 3 or 4, but again, I didn't do that year round. It was kind of like I came home from a camp, and I knew my fitness wasn't there. I didn't make a team, and I knew it was just because of my fitness. Now, I had been kind of injured going into the camp where I wasn't able to train, but but I still took it really hard still, but that's where I was like, oh shoot, I was unfit. I didn't realize I was unfit going in. I just thought I'm better, so I'm good. You know what I mean? And then I was like, whoa. So I, go after it. And then, but you'll know when you're overdoing it. But I'd say you can probably go a good 3 days a week of doing something like that.
Awesome. Great question. Anybody else? Anything you want to ask or anything like that?
Would you recommend a chiropractor for like staying healthy?
What practice?
A chiropractor. Like, would you recommend one? So I heard there's like a lot of scar tissue.
Where?
Like in your feet and stuff.
Oh, great question. And so, wow, that's a really good question, because you don't know this, but I'm not obsessed with the feet, but like, I think it's so overlooked. Like, this guy did a webinar just like 2 days ago. I was listening to She Wins, and he went into the part where his presentation was foot to ball contact, because I'd been practicing some moves, and I was like, you know what, I think I have it harder because I have small feet and small limbs. So it got me thinking about that. And I have very flat feet. So but the guy, he actually said men's and women's, a quick point, and I'm looking it up more, but that our feet are different, and it's on our navicular tuberosity. So I don't know. So somehow maybe, I don't know. But the point is there is a lot. I think a chiropractor is overdoing it for the foot. I think all you need is a lacrosse ball. A lacrosse ball is key, and a yoga block. And those 2 things, you'll be great. If you want, you could do a tennis ball, and they sell like this trigger ball, or these recovery packs. But the point is same thing. If somebody gets plantar fasciitis, they put the, they roll the ball on the bottom of their foot. And I actually taught like a Pilates yoga class called Strength and Flexibility in a high school. And yeah, I took the kids through first 10 minutes of class, because it's trying to teach them all the recovery techniques and stretching, so that stuff. But it was, so how you use a ball on your heel, you're getting different parts. You're loosening up your ankles and hamstrings. So your feet, your toes, there are things called toe spacers, right? Be aware of your feet. And soccer players, a lot of times, because our shoes are so tight, right? Some people, I've read some people say that they think after, and it seemed like they feel like toe spacers would be good for you to wear after a game. Just basically, once your feet are not flexible, you are going to lose out on function. So, half of the balance exercises that you're doing, you're trying to connect kind of the big toe, the quad, the glute, that synergy of those there. So the point is like, I even noticed after I tore my ACL when I was an old woman, but like on that knee, it's really hard to push off of the big toe, right? So you want to have proper flexibility of your big toe, of your foot. So when you're doing that lacrosse ball, you can do a lacrosse ball on your heel itself, but you really should also be doing it. You should be doing it on your arch, the middle arch, but then also, so the bottom of your foot, you have your main arch up here, that we all know about back there. But then right up front, like not on the toes, but behind them, that side to side, that front arch. So if you spend some quality time with a lacrosse ball, straight leg is different than bent knee, right? So you should do it sitting down in a chair as well as standing up. So rubbing the bottom of your foot from the front of the foot, middle of the foot, and back of the foot. That will make a bigger difference. Now, the next thing is the top of your foot, right? Having the proper flexibility going down, right? A lot of players, I don't know if you remember Lindsay really hurt. It's basically your anterior anterior tib. So that's the little muscle that helps pull your ankle up. And you need to keep that with the proper flexibility. So making sure that you're addressing that, that's what we're doing. If you get too tight up front, you get the shin splints, and then it ends up, let's just say, affecting that anterior tib to where you're soon going to lose movement in the ankle. So lastly, a yoga block. So now a yoga block, I'm sitting there and I have the lacrosse ball on the yoga block and I'm putting my leg on it. You can probably find, Google something of this, but now you're putting your right where basically your Achilles comes up to meet your calf muscle. You're putting that on there. You do that and move your foot around and rotate, you're going to loosen up a lot. So you do not need, I don't think you need a chiropractor. I think that's an overkill. I mean, unless someone has a pre-existing condition, just soccer alone is not, but the point of taking care of your feet is huge, and maybe did you mean podiatrist? Because podiatrist is more foot, but chiropractor, they try to do everything.
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem. No problem.
All right. Well, that's great. Thank you everyone for joining us. Staci, thank you for sharing this information with the kids and families. This is just so valuable. I mean, every time we talk, I learn so much. I've got a whole bunch of notes here. So kind of to recap, I think some of the equipment you guys, should look to invest in would be a ladder, like she said, yoga block, lacrosse ball, half foam roller, start looking into get a jump rope. These are all really simple things. It's not super expensive.
You might even choose, like, if you want to, and that was another thing, Jason, you said, you know, in terms of trying to, I would add to that, like you don't have to go to the extreme that I have. I have like dumbbells and a barbell but 1 or 2 sets of dumbbells, you know, because then you can do goblet squats or just a couple of arm exercises, or there's a ton of you could do a circuit that involves, you know, I have some dumbbell circuits. You know, you start with a bent over row, then RDL, and then, you know, do a squat, and then end with pushing it over your head. So that's a great type of workout that you could do just with like some 8, 10, 12. It depends on your, you know, a medicine ball. Oh, you'll enjoy, you know, the sit-ups. And so you don't need stuff, but if you can get a couple of key items like that, it's going to make fitness fun. And it makes it where, for me, I have a gym membership. I have stuff here, you know, then there's outside. Like, I feel like I have because I have so many options to work out, I have no excuse not to, you know? So that's where it's kind of like, hey, you can do a ladder, you can do with it. Like, so, you know, if you can get the equipment.
And also a really big thing too, guys, was, and what I wrote down and circled really big here was when Staci said, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And that's so valuable for you guys as you develop. And if you get this correct mindset as a younger person, it's really going to help you in life. You know, you can't do everything all the time, and it's and you need to figure out, are you just trying to do stuff like when you're working out? Are you, you know, just trying to impress certain people, or like, are you really focused on some specific thing that's going to help you, and how are you doing it? So hopefully, you know, this inspires you a little bit. And Staci, when you share that info with me, I'll make a folder online and I'll make it available for these players to go, you know, check it out and make some workout plans.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Staci. Everyone have a great weekend. Stace, thank you again so very much. I just really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And yeah, look forward to catching up.
All right. Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend.